Here.
Nick Altman,
Here.
Joyce Akahenda, Peter Siegel, and Peter did let me know that he would be late today. Connie Van Dorn,
Here.
Jesse Loper,
Here.
Representative Ricks, Senator Fields, Lee Friedman,
Here.
Dick Brown,
I'm here.
Lawless Jackson.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank
So,
you.
just to let all of you know, there has been no report issued yet for this task force. There's only one report. There was not an interim report. There's a final report. The due date for that is April 15th, and we are still working on the draft. The interim report for the Metro District Task Force was released, and that's just the interim one. The final report for that task force is due June 15th of this year. So there has been no reports released for this task force at this time.
So with that, with the purpose of today, from what we talked about at the last meeting being considering a drafting, considering the recommendations and a review of the recommendations that were going to be in that draft for the purpose of today. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of this meeting going forward should be, and I would move to reset this meeting to next Friday, or the Friday immediately after. We can receive something for us to review and consider and discuss in order to make the meeting actually be productive.
Lee, there are some recommendations that are sitting in the shared folder. I think there's 51 of them, if I remember right. So I thought maybe that was part of our agenda today. Maybe not. Chair Waters can speak to that.
Well, at the last meeting, we had suggested that the meeting be held on March 29th to give us time to complete the draft, and then you guys would be able to see it. But the push from the task force was to have the meeting today and go through a list of recommendations based on what we had kind of captured throughout your meeting. So that is the list of recommendations. Melissa and I went through and re-listened to all of your meetings, minus the public comment one, and put together the different recommendations. There was a lot of recurring themes from those meetings. And so just so that you're aware of how the report is currently drafted, what we do is for the different topics that you guys discussed, if there is existing statutes that pertains to those topics, there's an overview of the existing law, and then we go into the different points that you guys discussed as far as what you thought was working well, what needed to be improved, and that's how we have kind of laid out the report.
And maybe I missed something, but I looked in our portal and did not see anything that has been added since January 4th. Can somebody point to me where, and Connie, can you, where that information is that you're referring to?
Well, and I have another suggestion, if you'd like. If Melissa or Marcia could send me that list of recommendations, I can pop it up and share it on the screen, and as you all go through them, you can discuss. And Lawless, I see that your hand is up, ma'am.
Yeah, we specifically, we were clear at the last meeting. And yes, the recommendations that are in there have been in there the whole time. So not the whole time, but since January. And the expectation today was that we were supposed to get a list of the consensus items that were sent to Dave Donnelly, and then all of the recommendations. And if at each meeting notes are being taken and typed up, I really don't understand why we don't have that today, because it's a matter of putting them together, and this is a draft. So, I'm disappointed and I agree with Lee. I don't really see the point of talking about recommendations we're not looking at or have reviewed. That we asked for and we're clear on a month
So-
ago at the last meeting.
Melissa and then Connie.
As Connie mentioned, there is a list of 51 recommendations that Marcia and I compiled after going back and looking at all of the recordings from all of your meetings, and that was put into the agenda folder for today's meeting.
Connie?
I was just going to say, I hadn't been in the shared folder for, I don't know, a week or two. And I had reached out to David and said, hey, I'm looking for the agenda. And, you know, he was very courteous about it. He just sent me the link. And so, David, if, you know, Lee and others are looking for that, would it be possible, since you've got everyone's email addresses, to pop that back out to everyone? Because it's quick and easy to pull up based on the link that you had sent me.
The agenda is actually in the shared drive. So I printed it out and all it says is task force recommendations, which is what was supposed to happen today.
That's the only agenda item, right?
So again, I'm
Under
a little
the
disappointed
agenda,
that we don't have that report put together, or I should say that file put together. Otherwise, I agree with Lee, like there's nothing to really discuss until we get that.
Task force members, there is a folder in your shared drive under the agendas. And it's marked 3/22/24. So it's got the agenda in there. It has pending legislation. And it also has the list of recommendations. And that list of recommendations was uploaded into this folder on March 15th.
Connie and
Okay,
then
so the report is done. You're saying that you haven't compiled the draft, and then now you're saying, no, on March 15th, we actually put the list of recommendations in there. But none of us saw them, actually. I mean, I didn't see them. So which is it? Are the recommendations actually completed and we can review them, including the consensus items? Because I don't see that, and that seems to be being pushed under the rug a little bit. But are they in there? And we should review them or no?
The list is in there. The draft is not complete yet. The draft of the report is not complete. We did the list of your recommendations because that's what you guys wanted to discuss at this meeting.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what would have been useful is to email that out to us and say, here's the list, so that when you show up at the meeting, you can take action.
Connie, your hand is up.
I was just going to say this isn't any different than we've done any meeting. There have been occasions where there's been a link that's been included in an email or included on the agenda, but we've known since the get-go where to go and look that up. It's just been so long since we'd had a meeting, I sort of lost track of that. And honestly, I was a little bit nervous when I opened it up and found that document. And then I realized exactly what it is Melissa just described that she and Marcia have done. And God love them if they had to re-listen to all of those meetings. But there's a list of, it's not the report, but it is, here are the 51 recommendations that they captured that we talked about. And yes, I did ask in particular if we could go through and review those and vote on them. So I thought this would be maybe a 1-hour meeting to do that. And I think we're all clear that whatever this looks like, at the end of the day, Marcia is going to have that data for the report. And she just described to us the context of how the entire report will be written. So I think even if 5 minutes before I logged in, I grabbed this and just went all the way through to make sure I understood where I was with each of those. I think we can do it on the fly, and it's still a good use of our time. I'm concerned about our legislators who aren't here. I turned off my background noise just before I jumped on, and Rep. Ricks is on the House floor, or she was a few minutes ago introducing a bill. So the fact that, and I don't know who else might be absent, I didn't do a good job of paying attention during roll call, but I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to do that. So Marcia, thank you for putting that together, and Melissa, thank you as well.
Thank you, Connie.
Marcia, I'm not.
David has his hand up,
Oh,
and then
I'm
Lawless.
sorry.
I just wanted to quickly mention, I did just email everyone, all of the task force members, a link to the agenda folder. So that would take you directly to the 3 documents that Director Waters just referenced a moment ago. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, David. Lawless, and then Lee.
Yeah, I do. I got the email, got the link, and see the suggestions here. And with regard to the legislators, unfortunately, they haven't been at any except for the first one that we moved to Friday. So the last meeting, they were not here. They're not here today either. So we changed the schedule to accommodate their attendance. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened.
Lee?
Yeah, thanks. And David, thank you. I did actually find it when a little bit ago. And Marcia, I just want to make it clear, I'm not criticizing anybody from Dora at all with any of this. I was one that wanted to see the report and have the meeting on the 29th as well. I was more concerned about, trying to deal with stuff like this. As to the specific recommendations, I'll present my position a little late, when it's time as to the completeness of this.
Thank you, Lee. Does anyone else have any other comments? Connie?
I'm not
Just,
criticizing Dora either.
I think we can do both. I think we can walk through this list, and there might be a couple where there was one where I was going to need Lee's clarification, but other than that, to me, this is a walkthrough, and we can vote on those. And if we wrap the meeting early, then whenever Director Waters tells us a draft of the inclusive report will be ready, we can schedule the last meeting for then. That would be my suggestion.
Is that what you would all like to do? Show of hands, just real quick. Is that what you guys want to do? You want to go through and vote on them? I see one hand up. Only Connie's. Am I missing somebody's?
Yeah, you should see mine and Lee's.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought that was to speak. Yeah, that's to speak, Wallace. That's
I
why.
thought you said raise your hand.
Okay. Lee, what did you want to say? Okay, let's try this again. Raise your hand attached to your arm if you want to go through and vote, discuss and vote on the different recommendations. I want to get a consensus. I see Connie, Jose, Jesse. I only see 3 people, so. All right, let's see what Lee has to say, and then Richard.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with going through and discussing what may be missing, but the point that we had talked about last time was that the report was going to contain all suggestions made, all recommendations made by everybody, and not have us vote on what is going to be included or not. And so the reason I didn't raise my hand is had to do with the voting aspect that was identified. And one example I'll bring up now has to do with when Connie made, I think, 4 or 5 different recommendations at the last meeting, and I followed up with recommendations against those. The recommendations that I made against her recommendations are not listed in this list. And I think those need to be, those type of recommendations are as valid and the same and should be included in this list. And that's what I think is missing in this list.
Well, then if it's okay with the group, what we'll do is, Joyce, I see your hand is up. I will have you speak, and then you guys will jump into the list. Is that what you want to do? Okay. Joyce, what did you want to say, ma'am?
Yeah, my concern was, because I also thought that we were emailing David a list of what we our four like priorities or ideas as well. And so I'm not sure if that is included in the list. And so that's what I'm wondering in regards to the completeness of the list.
So
Like, was that information included in the list?
that information is going to be included as an appendix in the report.
Okay, so my understanding was I thought those were also going to be part of the suggestions that were going to be included on the list.
We put what you guys have discussed at the meetings as suggestions in the list, and then the separate list of suggestions that you emailed to us outside of the meetings, those are being included as appendices to the report.
Okay, Connie, and then Lawless, and then Lee.
I don't feel strongly at all about not including anything that Lee is concerned about including in here. So if we can get through the 51 and Lee has, these are 3 against recommendations, or however it was you captured that, I'm fine to add those as well. But we're at almost 20 after 1 and we're burning daylight. So I think it will feel maybe smoother when we start to go through the list. So unless everyone wants to, shut it down today, I would like us to spend the time and go through the list.
All right, Lawless?
I think what might be falling on deaf ears is the list is not complete. And Joyce, you're correct. The list was to include our consensus objectives. So what we sent to David were our 4 main they weren't suggestions, they were objectives, or that's not the word, but anyway, they were items of our top priorities. That's what they were, priorities for each task force member. Yes, that was supposed to be included. And 2, if the list is incomplete with some of Lee's suggestions, it may be incomplete with anyone else's. And so I do want to wait until the list is complete and we've had a chance to review it, and then we come together and discuss it, because to just run through a list, for example, something as big as changing the governance model in Colorado, like that's a very large subject. It's not a suggestion. It's more of a, and if it is a suggestion, it's more, it's a one that's, it's not sufficient to just say, are you in or are you out? So I do think that the list should be complete. I do think it should include what we requested it be. If we need to postpone until next week, so be it. I thought if the Met District could get theirs out, I'm not sure why we couldn't get ours out, but it is what it is. And so we have to deal with what we have right now.
And I'm going to make one more suggestion, in that this is our final meeting. So long as we keep talking about the list until we get there and go through the items, then let's bring those things up. Connie said it very well a second ago. Let's get to the list and start going through everything. But first we have Lee's hand up and then Connie's hand up.
Oh, and I'll be fast. I mean, as we go through the list, I can provide what my 4 highest preferences are. I didn't do that previously because I've spoken out so much at the time and explained what my preferences were during it. And so I had taken that anybody who had additional preferences, that of those 4 would be included in the list. So I didn't do anything separately. But if that's now going to be a footnote, then David, either I could give him, because since I didn't hear from you since the last meeting, I assumed that you had what my 4 would likely be. But it sounds like, because I didn't send that email specifically, that I may need to point that out to be added in. So,
Okay. Connie?
One of the things that we talked about at the last meeting is the conversations here are getting circular and we keep revisiting the same thing. And as I went through the list, I thought, well, gosh, I see 1137 here and here and here. And I didn't worry about munging them all together. I thought, okay, we'll just tick them off as we go. And again, if there's something that's missing, I don't have any objections at all to, if the group is good with it, email your top four if that would help folks to David after. I didn't realize that this was the last meeting. I thought it was either the last or the next to the last. But if we get through these, everybody has a chance to clarify, add on, subtract from, get it to David for the report. I'm good. Let's figure out together how we can get it done.
All right, thanks, Connie. So y'all, Lawless, okay, I see you guys, so long as you keep talking, I hate to sound irritated, but we're not going to get to the list. Lawless, go ahead.
I agree. I didn't get the memo that this was the last meeting of the task force either. And so that's news to me as well. And then I'm fine with going through the list, but like I said, this is like going through the last few meetings that we've already had. So I don't really see doing that again without the report. But hey, I'm a participant, so I will sit here and listen.
Okay, so it was stated very clearly in the last meeting that the division that Dora wanted it on the 29th, y'all voted to have it today. It was very clearly stated, and I apologize for those who missed it. It was very clearly stated that today would be the last meeting. Okay, so let's go through these task force suggestions. And remember, these are just suggestions. We don't have to debate the viability, of each thing. The only question you're answering is, do you want this in this suggestion that we're discussing in the final report? Is everybody clear on that? Okay, so number one.
That doesn't make sense if we're voting on whether or not it should be in the final report, because all of these are going to be in the final report. Does that make sense?
I totally agree with you. I said that last meeting that I don't think we're, that we should be voting on them. But that's what you guys said you wanted to do.
So I don't think actually you need to vote, but if we're missing something, this is an opportunity to let us know if we missed something, or if something wasn't stated the way that you intended it in these suggestions, you can provide clarification to us.
Thank you, Marcia.
Okay.
All right. The first item is creation of an alternative dispute resolution mechanism to settle disputes between homeowners and HOAs. Now, Lee, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I didn't actually agree to this. I had agreed to the consideration of mediation only as an ADR mechanism, but not for arbitration.
There's nothing in here that says arbitration.
Yeah,
So,
alternative
yeah.
dispute resolution is considered both mediation and arbitration.
Okay, I understand. And you're right, we were assuming mediation.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So is there, Connie, your hand is up.
Everything here needs to be included. That was said last week as well, because this group of people has really struggled to coalesce around even consensus. It was sort of a lengthy motion, but it pared down to, let's vote on that. And if there's one word that makes a difference between a yes vote and a no vote, let's say that. But I am concerned about us taking the time to do all that now. I don't want any of these, and I don't agree with everything that's here, but I don't want any of them not to be here. But at the end of the day, what goes to the General Assembly should reflect what we've done. Last week, I listened to the Commission on Property Tax Task Force, and that's exactly what they did. And they did it very courteously. They just went through the issues, they voted on them. And then when they got done, they had time, they rank ordered them. So, so I'd like us to do something where we get all the way through number 51 and not just 9.
Agreed. And as Marcia stated, all of, and it's been stated a few times, all of these suggestions will be in the report. This is your opportunity to tweak something like Lee just suggested. When Lee said creative of an ADR mechanism could be considered mediation or arbitration. So it's your opportunity to tweak the verbiage in here. Lee, your hand was up.
Yeah, Mickey, it was just, I don't have a problem with number 1 being in there with the right people that are supportive of a full ADR mechanism with arbitration, but I'm not in that. And when we talked about it, I had recommended considering mediation only. And so that's all I'm saying is that then we should add a second one with the people that would propose mediation rather than arbitration.
Okay, Joyce?
I also was not thinking of arbitration. I was thinking of mediation as well. Yeah, I was also thinking mediation.
Let me see something. I don't think I have. Melissa, could you do me a favor, please? Could you change number 1 to say creation of mediation, a mediation mechanism to settle disputes between homeowners and HOAs? Would that satisfy the group if we took out ADR?
No, I think it should be alternative dispute resolution. Some matters do need ADR and some matters don't. So to leave it open to both, I think is more fruitful.
Okay.
So we're taking notes about your guys's clarifications, and we've got it down that we also need to address mediation is one of the concepts that people are thinking of with recommendation 1.
Okay, Jesse and then Melissa.
I just agree about the mediation aspect. I think we all, I'm not gonna say we all, it sounds like 3 of us, at least on this list, wanted mediation in that, instead of just ADR writ large. So that's all I have.
Okay. Melissa?
Thanks, Mickey. I just wanted to clarify that the draft of the report that we have is obviously much more expansive than this list. The section in the report that discusses ADR talks about some task force members are in favor of mediation. Some task force members are in favor of an ALJ system. That stuff is elaborated in the report, the draft so far. That's just not what the intent of this list was to be. So there is more detail in the report than is on this list, I guess, is all I'm trying to point out.
Thank you. So with that being said, is the consensus that we can leave number 1 alone? As Melissa says, it's expanded in the report.
Yes.
Okay. And we have ADR. Okay. And mediation. Okay, great. Number 2, licensing of community association managers. Is that suggestion okay? Joyce?
Yes,
And
that's
then
okay.
Lawless.
And I also was supporting that.
Okay, thank you. Lawless?
Yeah, I don't recall making that suggestion, so you can take my name off of it. I don't think that's necessarily required to achieve communication efficiencies.
Okay, and Melissa, you are taking those notes, correct?
Yes,
Great.
I am.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Any other suggestions, changes? Richard?
Sorry, I was still on mute.
That's
I
okay.
thought I had voted to support that concept going forward. So if you could add my name to that, I'd appreciate it.
And these suggestions are great because imagine poor Melissa and Marcia having to go through all those meetings. So thank you for these comments. Any other suggestions for item number 2? All right, number 3, licensing certification of HOA boards. Connie,
I would feel better about that one if we took off the word licensing. It's not realistic, but some kind of certification. Yes.
okay? I think that can be done. That's an easy one. Lawless?
And again, all of these are going in the report, right? So what are we doing here? What are we saying yes and no to? Taking it out of the report or putting it in the report?
Just if you're in agreement with the way, like with creation of
That it was
alternative,
a suggestion?
yes, just if you're okay.
Okay, I think that we're all in agreement that the whole list is a suggestion,
But we can see maybe people's names added or deleted.
Okay.
We're going through to see if we need any tweaks.
Got it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, so taking off the word licensing on item number 3. All right, item number 4, passage of a voter reform bill to increase homeowner participation in budget process. Is everybody okay with that? I see no hands up. Okay. Number 5, cleaning up House Bill 22-1137. Lawless and then Lee.
Yeah, I was very vocal on cleaning that up, so I'd like my name added to that.
Thank you, ma'am. And Lee?
Yeah, this is just one of my priorities for David.
Okay. Number 6, clean up House Bill 20. Oh, I'm sorry, Connie.
I was just gonna say, I expected Peter to say he wanted his name on that, and I forgot that he was gonna be a little bit late, but in all fairness, that's not something that was high on my list, but I think it was on his. So, I would suggest that his name be added to that.
That was on number 5, and I will am making a note to ask him when he gets here.
Yep.
And I will ask him when he gets here. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Number 6, clean up House Bill 22-1139, public right-of-way bill. Okay. Number 7, need to discuss ways to protect association funds, funding, and education with regard to insurance and construction defect issues, government subsidies, and forms and protection from the purchase and sale of units and lots perspective. Any comments on that, Lee?
Yeah, just this is another priority, David.
Any other comments? All right, number 8, creation of interim committee to represent homeowners. I'm sorry, Jesse, I just saw your hand up. Was this on the last one or this one?
This one, it's just to add my name to this one, please.
Okay, thanks. Adding Jesse's name to item number 8. Thank you. And Connie?
I remember Rep. Rick saying she was a yes on this. I am certainly not her voice, but if we're following up with folks, her name belongs on that one.
Whose name, Connie?
Rep. Rick's.
Okay. And she's item number 8. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Any other comments? Number 9, creation of a Richard. Richard, you are still on mute, sir.
Doggone
There you
it.
go.
I just thought we were already transitioning to 9, and I'd
Okay.
like to be listed as supporting that.
You are on number 9, sir. Joyce, go ahead, please.
Yes, I was also supporting every HOA having a reserve study.
Okay. So Joyce's name goes on number 9. Connie?
As does mine.
Great. Jose?
That's mine.
And Jesse.
Me too.
Awesome. Thanks y'all for speaking up. All right, number 10, change in HOA governance model. Connie?
I would just ask when, and maybe it's in there, but when the report gets finished, the context, the meat around it is that it references the CAI 2016 governance panel report that includes feedback from the then, well, this part doesn't need to be included in the writing, but as a reminder to the committee, that includes feedback from the then HOA officer.
And I would just want to make sure, Melissa, did you catch all that?
I hope it's an addendum even, if that's possible, because that is a fantastic report.
Okay, hold on. My computer's going. My computer has a mind of its own right now. Hold on 1 second. Let me bring this back up. Boy, it's gone completely. Well, this is interesting. And Melissa, you did say that you caught all that?
I did, yes.
You guys, hold on. I'm having, some computer issues I'm not happy about.
Vicky, can you enable it so that I can share a screen and I'll see if
I'm
I
go-
can pull it up?
Yeah, I will, Marcia. Thank you. I was just getting ready to ask that. Thank you. Because I do not know what my computer did there. Wow. And it's not even giving me that option for you, Marcia, and it should because I am a co-host. Let me try something. Wow. Eric, I don't know if you're in earshot. Oh, there you are. You are
Yeah,
now.
Marcia's there.
Yeah, she's a co-host now. Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. All right, we are on item 11. Change House Bill 22-1137 notice requirements to make 1137 green, more digital notice methods was the point of that. Any comments on this? Connie?
I would add my name to that one.
Thank you. Jesse?
Please add my name too.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, item number 12, revise, differentiate covenant violations, health and safety for profit. Okay, any additions or changes needed on this, Connie?
Add me to that one, please.
Got it. All right, number 13, revise 18th month repayment plan guidelines. Lawless?
You can add my name to that one if it's, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, number 14, revise fines and timeframes to cure safety violations. Connie?
I would be added to that one, please.
Thank you. All right, number 15, need to create a section for covenant violations where people make a profit for covenant violations. Lee?
Yeah, I don't think I thought this was just a discussion at that time, about that covenant violations aren't used, for, um, to make a profit, that it's a nonprofit community. And so either I think we need to go back and take a look at the, discussion there, but I don't think anyone would agree that, there needs to be language in Kiowa talking about using covenant violations to make a profit.
If I remember the discussion correctly, what it amounted to was that, so if you're doing short-term rentals or some other issue, that the benefit that you get from violating those covenants, the receiving fines should not be so low that it's still basically you move
Yeah.
ahead with doing the covenant violations.
Thank you. You reminded me. So it would be, instead of we're people, we should probably say we're owners.
Okay, let's have a little more discussion. Lawless?
Yeah, you can take me off of that one, because again, they're nonprofit organizations. I understand the concept, and I thought that was just a argument for increasing the fine capability of the associations over what it currently is in HB 221137, so that it wasn't appealing to people who are doing the short-term rentals, or, it doesn't deter them. But I would rather not be, I'd rather not have my name on that one, because yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't anything I suggested, but I understand the concern.
Okay, Connie?
That would be one that you add to the Peter list to discuss, because I can almost hear him in my head talking about that. He might have a suggestion for the language.
Okay, I will put that on the Peter list. Thank you. And if that's okay with everybody, we'll wait for Peter to be here to discuss it again. All right, number 14, revise fines and timeframes to cure safety violation. Connie?
You can add me to that one.
Thank you.
We already did that one. We were on 15 and you jumped back to 14.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Need 16 then. Need to revise Kiowa to adequately address repeat covenant violations. Connie?
Then you can add me to that one.
Okay. Anybody else? Thanks for keeping me in line, Lawless. I really do appreciate it. Number 17, address HOA's need to seek injunctive relief for certain violations. Seeing or hearing no changes for that. Moving to 18, eliminate posting of notices publicly on doors. Connie?
Probably nobody can include this in their report, but I strongly oppose. And the bill that was, I don't remember the number, but that's out there right now to clean that up, that was the most important thing. And they've stripped out the other things that I would have not, but this one, we believe associations have done it, and it's what may be making the difference. So I don't know if there's a way to note that or not. I just felt the need to say it.
Okay. Number 19, require any lender who escrows taxes or insurance to offer an option to escrow HOA fees. Jesse?
Please add my name.
Thank you. And Lee?
You could add me to that one.
Thank you. Lawless?
I don't want my name added. I just want to say good luck with changing the banking industry.
All right. Number 20, declare that fines cannot be counted as revenue. Connie,
Please add me to that one.
got it? Richard,
Me too.
thank you. And
And
Jose,
me, and me as well.
thank you. And Lawless,
They are not revenue already.
Jesse,
Please add my name too. Thank you.
thank you. Connie,
Maybe the clarification, that Lawless helped me with this, but I think what the discussion was around this is it shouldn't be budgeted. So maybe, declaring that fines cannot be counted as revenue isn't so much the issue as, hey, don't include that in your budget. So
I think
just a
that's
thought.
what it should say if that's the case, because they're already not revenue. So if you want to have something that says I mean, the practice is they're not revenue, they're not income, and they're afterthoughts. So it's kind of like, oh, we got a fine, so now we have to place it in an income category. So if that line could be specified that in budgeting, fines, late fees, and interest cannot be allocated as income. That's already the case, but for those who don't know, that's how it should be.
and I believe Melissa has that change. Okay. Number 21, a one-page common interest community disclosure provided to homeowners in every purchase for transaction involving a home in an HOA. Joyce,
I supported that too.
thank you. Lawless? You're on mute, dear.
I can support that as well.
Thank you. Lee?
Yeah, when this was discussed originally, I had made the suggestion of requiring new home buyers to take course to take a class on HOA residential living. And so I'd like to have that suggestion added. If it's not later, but it was during this discussion. And I
That's
think
okay.
it actually is where Connie brought up this, was when I was talking about education by the real estate or title company industry.
So Lee, that is addressed in the draft report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Jesse?
Yeah, I think similar to what Lee was saying, there is like number 48 talks about improved education information on the front end for homeowners and real estate professionals. So I think it's similar to what this is.
Yeah.
So I think they could kind of be combined into the same one. I don't know if it's a one-page disclosure or not, or we need to be, I would just say disclosure, right? So, and I think we could probably make that the recommendation of the task force is increase like the disclosure education on the front end for homeowners. Because I don't know that we need both entries in here. I see why. I'm sure they brought up at different meetings, and so that's why they're both there. But yeah, either way, I support this one, and I'll support the later one if we want to keep both in.
Great. Jose?
I support this one as well.
Thank you. Lawless?
I think I already indicated I supported this one. And I do believe it should be a one-page additional disclosure in the sale, administered by DORA or required by DORA. I mean, actually, it's not. Anyway, a one-page disclosure separate and apart for homeowners who are buying in HOAs.
Thank you. All right, number 22, require HOA registration. Oh, did I miss something? Did somebody speak? I'm sorry. Number 22, require HOA registration with DORA Failure to register results in fine and loss of authority to enforce association actions. Lawless.
I support this. It already, they lose some authority, whether they know it or not, because they haven't registered. But right now, there isn't a fining mechanism, I don't believe.
Okay, Joyce,
I support this as well.
thank you. Jesse
Me too.
and Jose,
Me as well.
thank you, sir. All right, number 23, need forms with regard to the purchase of properties and community associations with regard to closing lists that are more clear as to what expenses are, where documents are coming from, and whether documents are complete or not. Joyce?
Could you explain this a little more, Lee?
Yep.
I can, but I will, somebody said Lee and they're right. Lee, you suggested it, so go ahead, sir.
Sure, that has been confusion in the industry as to where documents in a purchase and sales transaction are coming from. There are third-party providers that are giving documents and not actually getting them from the association or its provider or management company. And so the documents are incomplete. And for example, my partner bought into a community, was provided documents from a certain known third-party provider that did not have updated amendments to the governing documents. And so they were incomplete. We've had discussions in the past with Representative Tatone about language. And in 2020, right before COVID, there was a bill that was going to be introduced, and then COVID hit. That basically had third-party providers identifying that documents were coming from a third-party provider, and that the owner was accepting them at their risk that they may be incomplete as to association records. So that's where this comes from. Also, the title, one other issue is title companies, their closing forms do not have specific language as to where certain costs for obtaining documents or other things are coming from, whether the association is charging something or a third-party provider is charging something, and it just creates a lot of confusion. So making the purchase and sale transaction more formulaic, and where the purchasers sign off on what they have received, what the figures are, would resolve a lot of these problems on that front end before owners go into the community.
Okay, Joyce?
So I would support that, but my hesitancy, or what I would like noted, is that I would not support the homeowner being responsible for not having received the incomplete documents. But otherwise, I support it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I don't believe anything I was saying was that a homeowner would be responsible for not getting complete documents. They're just signing what I would want in a form is that they just sign that they are receiving at least the governing documents, but ultimately they accept there's just language saying who the documents are coming from, and that they're if they aren't coming from the association, it's noted so homeowners are better protected and understand that.
Thank you. Jesse?
I'd like to support this.
Thank you. Connie?
I think the piece that ties Joyce's comments and Lee's together would be with accountability. There's a real issue with third-party providers and the profit focus instead of the focus on homeowner education. So I would support all of that with accountability, but I don't know what accountability looks like until we have regulation. So that's my comment.
Okay. All right, number 24, propose the General Assembly pass a bill requiring insurers to prove in bad faith insurance claims. Number 1, unreasonable notice by a community association and resultant harm in order to enforce the notice provision. And number 2, intent to defraud in order to enforce a fraud provision in the policy. Carney?
I want to ask Lee if, I think I support this, but I'd like to ask Lee if he would give a brief example of what that would look like.
Yeah, sure.
First.
There, in in bad faith insurance claims, there's a split nationwide among jurisdictions where as to whether insurers actually have to prove fraud. There's fraud provisions in insurance policies that don't define what fraud is. And so we've had cases in Colorado where $1 million bad faith claims are kicked completely for associations where intent is not required or intent is not proved, where a association fills out a claims loss to the carrier. The loss is deemed to be too high and by the court, and the court just finds, oh, it's too high, and we're going to kick it under the fraud provision. Then with regard to unreasonable notice, we had a case in Colorado where a court found that a board member was on vacation, hail occurred. When she came back, her car was damaged, but the association didn't know that there was hail damage to the roof. They didn't find out until about 6 months later when a roof contractor went up on the roof to discover hail damage. The judge kicked the association's bad faith claim, finding that the board should have been aware of hail damage when the board member came back from vacation, and the carrier did not have to prove any harm as a result of any kind of late notice. And so this basically goes to what the majority around, to require what the majority around the country is with late notice, that carriers must prove harm as a result of that late notice, or with regard to the fraud the provision in the policy, they have to prove actual fraud under Colorado law, which requires the intent to defraud.
Got it.
And I'm sorry
Thank
if
you.
that was too long.
Got it. Thank you.
You're
And
fine.
please add my name to that one.
Got it, Connie. Joyce?
Yes, I would support that too.
Thank you, ma'am. Jesse?
Please add my name as well.
Got it. Jose?
Yeah, thanks, Lee, for that explanation. I support that.
Thank you all. All right, number 25, legislative suggestion. Require developers to provide an approved third-party reserve study approved by declarants board and by homeowners, and make developers required to provide adequate funding of the reserves for the association for a period of at least 2 years and the working capital for the same amount of time. Joyce?
I support that.
Connie?
As do I.
Richard?
Me too.
Jose?
I support it.
Thank you, Lee.
You could add me.
Thank you. We got Jesse and Jose and Lee. Okay. Number 26. Propose that General Assembly consider modifying House Bill 22-1139 to allow the associations to enforce issues that affect quiet enjoyment of community by owners. Lee?
That's we also have 6. That was mine as well. And I think that one's more, the one you just read is more clear. So we could probably remove 6 and keep that one.
You said remove I6?
Remove number 6 and keep number 26.
Okay.
They both
Martha?
deal with 1139. The 26 is just more has more information.
Okay. Marcia, could you flip down to item number 6 so they can see it, please? And are you guys in agreement with Lee's suggestion of removing item number 6? Lee sponsored both and, okay, so item number 6 will come off. Thank you, Lee. Lawless.
I think in that clarification, if you could use the words, to enforce issues within public right of way, then that makes it more contextual that affect quiet enjoyment of community by owners. The problem is that the legislature has said that associations can't enforce its covenants in public right of ways. And that would be the streets or the streets. And so we have communities where that's exactly what associations need to do. So I think that point about the public right of way needs to be in the
So you want the
suggestion.
verbiage in that says to allow the associations to enforce issues that affect quiet enjoyment of community by owners as well as public right of way?
In public right of ways.
And public right of way, okay.
In.
Oh, I'm sorry, by
In.
community by owners in public right of way. Okay, Lee?
Yeah, no objection.
No objection, great. And I know Melissa has that change. So thank you for that. All right, number 27. Legislature creates a program to provide homeowner assistance funds. Lee?
Yeah, just having David add that as one of my priorities to analyze public and private funding mechanisms to assist owners' payment of assessments or outstanding assessment.
Melissa, did you catch all that or does Lee need to repeat it?
I got it.
Thank you, ma'am. Joyce?
I support that.
Thank you. Jose?
I support that.
Thank you. All right. Number 28, require training for HOA board members. Joyce?
I support that.
Thank you. All right, number 29, pass legislation or revise House Bill 1137 to protect homeowner equity in the event of a foreclosure. Jesse?
Please add my name.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, number 30, no later than January 1st, 2025, add a 10th responsible governance policy that is an anti-harassment policy. Connie?
Joyce, or not Joyce, Wallace pointed out that that may not fit the definition of a governance policy. So I would just say add it, but without that particular phrase, maybe. Instead of add a 10th responsible governance policy, add a policy that is an anti-harassment policy.
So remove at a 10th responsible governance policy. Okay, thank you, Connie. Lee?
Hey, Connie, just for clarification, can you explain anti-harassment for who?
So it really works both ways. So we had someone testify, for example, when we were doing public testimony, that there was a homeowner that was constantly harassing. And we've had I can't think of an example where someone actually testified, and they might have, but during witness testimony, but it's certainly embedded in Dora Engage examples where we have bully boards that go after homeowners. So harassment and the culture, I guess, of our society right now, I think speaks to, especially because HOAs aren't regulated anyway, the task force should recommend an anti-harassment policy that works both ways.
Thank you for the clarification.
Lawless?
Well, I first of all, anti-harassment, or the word harassment can be defined so many different ways. And so I thought you were speaking in terms of those homeowners who do harass the manager or the company by sending, 100 emails in 30 days. That I'm not sure is harassment as much as it is abuse, but I'm for it if I just don't know that it can be legislated in this way per a regulation, per a suggestion to the General Assembly, because on both sides, like some would say HOAs in general are harassing them and they're just sending the covenant violation letter. So that's what I have difficulty with, and that's why I'm not supporting it. I'm like, well, what exactly is the definition of harassment for this purpose? So that's what I wanted to express.
Thank you, Lawless. Joyce?
I would support it.
Thank you.
Lawless, would you support it if it was inclusive of language that took into account things like have happened in my master association where we've had covenant patrol people chased by umbrellas? So something that it's inclusive, right?
Yeah, I agree. I've been harassed. I've had the police called on me when I'm just doing covenant violations in the community. And, I'm not a suspicious looking individual unless you think a certain way. And so, again, my issue is the definition of harassment. Harassment is not sending you a violation letter. It's not posting on your door, for example. It's not regular activity of doing what the association does, but some feel it is, right? And so, again, that definition needs to be really spelled out or really defined. I would be in support of it because I shouldn't have the police called on me. I shouldn't have to put up with the language that people use when they call the management company, and that never gets talked about. It's only what the association did. It's not the horrific abuse that we actually take on a regular basis. So I would support it. I'm not sure if the harassment, I don't know what it is that's like I don't know if that's the right word or whatever, but I'm in support of no harassment. So of any type, but we need to define what that is, because my job is not harassment. my job is my job. And, but the way I'm treated can be considered harassment. And the way, if there are boards like that, then they've got a manager who's allowing them to do that. That's just not what we're supposed to be doing. But I understand the need for that civility that is escaping us right now, where, things are being taken into individuals' own hands rather than following the process. So I'll support that.
All right,
But
Lee.
we need to clean that up a little bit.
Okay, Lee.
Yeah, kind of the main reason I'm not supporting this is simply that we have Colorado law that already lays out harassment, already legislates harassment and nuisance, and Colorado case law that already interprets those. And we have declarations that have nuisance provisions already. And so that would just be something extra that could create additional.
Okay, Joyce.
Yeah, after the discussion, I'm gonna take my name off of it because I agree with what Lee just said, and two, I do have a concern in regards to the potential of abuse in regards to that.
Okay, Lawless.
Yeah, I think the point here though is something in association activity as opposed to Colorado state. We know that, you can't harass someone, right? But whether or not the association goes to those lengths to correct that, it doesn't. It's not going to be like, oh, well, we can, call the police and, we need. I understand what Connie is saying. Like, we need some mechanism inside the industry of community management and how homeowners harass management companies, and how not management companies, but boards or whatever, want to step outside of their role and harass homeowners. So I get the concept, like that's what I'm, we need something in community management. And this is evident just because we've had people's lives taken in doing the act of their job as community managers. We've had so many different things that are going on. And of course, the state would step in when someone's lives are taken, but in the normal course of business, there needs to, I think it would help in establishing a level of civility that seems to be going by the wayside recently.
Okay, Jesse.
I'd like to add my name to this, please.
Thank you. All right. Any more conversation on item number 30? Okay. Item 31, not later than 1/1/26 at 11th governance policy regarding elections. Joyce?
I support that.
Thank you. Lee?
Yeah, again, Connie, the reason I'm not supporting it is simply that we have 308 and 310 of Kiowa. We also have the Nonprofit Corporations Act that also fills in the gaps with regard to elections. And then we have the bylaws. So any changes would be to those. Adding a governance policy is not necessary, and boards have the right to adopt rules and regulations to further tighten the election process, to clarify the election process.
Okay. Connie?
Not trying to twist Lee's arm to get him to change his mind, but to explain the reason I think that's so important. We had a witness in public testimony talk about an election lawsuit where, let me see if I can remember the numbers. At the end of the day, and it wasn't finished, but the appeal looked like the homeowner, and it took years to get done, was in the right to the tune of $300,000. And she acknowledged at the end of the day that it had cost them so far $400,000. In my own HOA, and I'll be very brief and not detailed about it because it is my own HOA. We had an election that started in November that didn't get finished until this week because to the point of there's information in Kiowa, there's information in the Nonprofit Act, there's information in all of the documents that fall under the umbrella of the HOA. And it seems if we had, in my mind, if we had a standard policy that provided a little bit more structure, remember, people on the board are just volunteers. They don't know. Homeowners don't know, but elections, at least in my experience over the last 6 years, have gotten crazy and caused lots of problems. So not trying to get anyone to change their mind, just trying to explain why it's there.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, 32. Require association to provide or cause to be provided education at no cost to homeowners on at least an annual basis as to the general operations of the association, the rights and responsibilities of the homeowners, the association, the executive board. Proof of association training must accompany application for registration in order for that registration to be considered valid. Comments? Joyce?
No.
Okay. All right, number 33. Within 12 months of being appointed or elected, HOA board members must attend training addressing governing documents, roles and responsibilities, association communications, meetings, volunteerism, fundamentals of financial management, etc. Annually thereafter must attend training on legislative updates. Proof of training must be provided for registration to be considered valid. Joyce?
I support that.
Thank you. Jose?
I support that as well.
Thank you. All right, seeing no more comments or hands up. All right, 34. Enhance Kiowa to include a requirement that a majority of members must vote to approve any common elements changes. Joyce?
I support that.
Thank you. Jesse?
I support it as well.
Thank you. All right. 35. Focus use of proxies. Proxies may only be used to establish quorum or as directed proxies to cast votes on issues specifically outlined on an agenda duly noticed to members. Proxies shall not be used to elect board members. Only ballots, including secure electronic ballots, shall be used in board member and delegate elections, and those ballots shall be counted in front of the membership when possible. Directed ballots, whether electronic or otherwise, shall be immediately available for inspection following the count.
I support that.
Thanks, Joyce. Lee?
Yeah, I'm gonna add, I'm in support of this at all, and I would like to add a suggestion to this that the use of proxies not be limited as to any acts to be taken by the membership. That proxies are to be able to be utilized in all instances.
Okay. Lawless?
Yeah, the point of the proxy is to provide someone with the ability to vote for my board of directors as I see fit. So anything that limits the ability for me to vote because I'm using a proxy, I'm against. And that's what this is.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Number 36, for any association over 20 years in existence, eliminate at the vote and discretion of the board any maximum assessment amount that may be outlined in the association governing documents or good governance policies. Lee?
Hey, Connie, can you explain this? Because I don't understand it at all.
Yep. Real example, my master association is, I don't know, 23, 4, 5 years old,
Mhm.
and it's got a maximum assessment increase cap of 5% annually. So when the declarant wrote those documents, they couldn't envision what 2024 looks like, and it really handicaps the association. There are times, think about the insurance premiums that no one, at least inside the HOA industry, can control, have just gone sky high. And it really hampers my association's ability to get done all the things that we need to get done for 6,000 plus homeowners when we are limited to a 5% increase. So the 20 years is in there because, for the first few years, it might be fine, but to say forever is really a long time.
Okay, and thank you, Connie. Then I had a community yesterday that has a 15% cap, and when they haven't increased assessments for years, it does become a problem to do anything, right? So I agree. I do support that. Would you be open to changing it to, and there's been reserve studied the reserve bill that actually got approved and then got vetoed actually eliminated those caps altogether. Would you be open to eliminate? Otherwise, I'd make it a separate suggestion that assessment caps be eliminated altogether.
Well, so my question back to you would be, help me as the attorney to understand how that works for existing documents. I mean, existing associations.
Yeah, because it then removes we see a lot of, especially you have a cap of maybe the consumer price index that you can only increase by the consumer price index, which I think right now is just over 3%, 3.5%. And it makes it very difficult for any association with those caps to do business, especially when they have major issues come up. And you can't do a special assessment because special assessments, the special assessment language says it's for extraordinary repairs that are not you can't determine before by the budget. And so true extraordinary stuff that comes up in the middle. But if you already know about the problem going into the budget, you can't have enough money in the budget. You can't raise enough money to do it. And so you can't fix something even by special assessment. So this allows the board, using their fiduciary duties of good faith, reasonableness, best interest of the association, to not be hamstrung like your association is in their circumstances. It would apply across the board, so boards can actually determine proper budgets, proper maintenance, and so we don't end up with the situations like we had in Surfside, Florida.
Go ahead, Connie.
I'm actually okay with that. And we both know what the argument will be on the other side, and that is for the responsible home buyer who read the documents and went, my dues are never going to go up more than 5%. This kind of a law essentially eliminating that will not feel fair to them. But I actually would support what you just said.
And I agree with you, and that's where education on the front end is going to be important as well as to what the law does say. So owners, and we have a lot of that. Any changes to Kiowa change could have a serious impact on what's in a declaration. And so,
So
yeah,
if we
no,
changed, if we eliminated the words over 20 years in existence,
yeah,
we would both feel good about that.
yeah, yes.
Anybody else?
All right, good. And I know Melissa got that, so Lawless.
Oh, I would be in agreement if you're just talking about removing maximum assessment caps, like in general. I would support that.
All right. Any other comments? All right, 37, requiring homeowner education regarding HOA rights and responsibilities as part of purchase process. Lawless?
I think that what I said was, we could do homeowner education. It could be a requirement. We did the disclosure, the one-page disclosure. But I don't, I mean, I don't want to put too much on, but so yeah, just leave it. Never mind. I apologize.
No problem.
I just was thinking that the disclosure kind of covered that, but the disclosure is more that you're going to be living in an HOA. The HOA living experience as a separate piece or a video or something of that nature would be fine as well. I don't want to require too much of a homeowner purchasing in HOAs because there's a lot of people purchasing in HOAs, and some of them are repeat buyers, so they already know what HOAs are about. So I feel like the disclosure is enough. To add an additional class piece is for maybe, some of the programs that offer down payment assistance, for example, they require the homeowners to go through certain classes in home buyership, in buying a home. If it's something like that, that's fine. I just don't want to overburden buying in Colorado.
Thank you. Lee?
Yeah, and you could add me to 37.
Okay. Jose?
Add me as well.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, number 38. Protect homeowner equity by enhancing Kiowa language to require that HOA-related foreclosures be sold at market rate. Joyce?
I support that.
Thank you, ma'am. Jose?
I support that.
Okay. Jesse?
I support it as well.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, 39. Call on industry to acknowledge and self-regulate bad actor attorneys regarding predatory HOA foreclosure practices. Joyce?
I support that.
Thank you. Jose?
I support that.
Thank you. Jesse?
I support it as well.
Thank you. Lee?
I'm going to add a suggestion because I did at the time we discussed this, that the regulation of attorneys should not be done through any association, right, through any association legislation, because it's already they're already regulated by the state.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. Any other comments? All right, 40. Disincentivize attorneys from exploiting foreclosure profit opportunities. Joyce,
I support that.
thank you. Jose,
I support that.
thank you. Jesse,
I think I support it, but I was hoping, Connie, can you explain what this was? Do you remember more specifically?
It's fair to ask. What's in my head is this. There are some things, and Lee just sort of made the point about the one prior to that. You know, do we really expect the legislators to come up with a bill that addresses that? Well, for most things that are here, probably so. But for many of us on this particular issue, there is an awareness, and Lee, certainly no disrespect to you or any specific attorney, not to anyone at this task force table, but many of us know and understand and have the data to support the fact that this is happening. So if any of us have just listened to the testimony on the really interesting HOA reform bills this session, that theme has popped up. So when I saw the initial report that came out from us that said, okay, legislature, they met for 20 minutes. Actually, it was 3 hours or whatever it was. And here are the recommendations. Well, it's a little bit out of context without saying it really was a first meeting. Everybody didn't get to talk, and everybody didn't necessarily agree to all 6 of these. So in my mind, we've had a chance to work together, make recommendations, and identify issues that need to be passed on to the General Assembly as they consider HOA reform legislation. And this is one. So, so that's all that it is.
thank you, Connie. Lee,
Yeah, and I'm gonna just address that briefly, which is we are as attorneys, we are licensed and we are regulated and overseen by the Colorado Supreme Court already. And so having it broken down by industry doesn't make sense. But I've been involved in a case where an attorney also had owned or previously owned a condominium and ultimately has been disbarred since as a result of conduct in other cases, and what sanctions were entered in our case as a result of conduct there. But she ended up being sanctioned by the Attorney Regulation Council, went before, got put up on charges, and ultimately was disbarred by the Supreme Court. And that's how the process is supposed to go. And judges in our cases have the right to sanction attorneys for what they consider to be wrongful conduct, filing of frivolous claims, etc. So the process is there. Putting something else, I mean, that's a big disincentive for us attorneys. And I think Jesse would agree as well. And there are, in foreclosure claims, we have seen attorneys assert incredibly frivolous claims against an association, frivolous defenses against an association. We've seen owners do the same thing that end up blowing up the attorney's fees that end up getting incurred in those cases. So I know there's a couple foreclosure bills going through right now where I think issues on both sides, examples on both sides are being introduced. as to that. But right now we have a mechanism through the court system to deal with that, and through the Attorney Regulation Council to deal with these issues. We don't need more regulation that makes it even more complicated, more difficult for anybody to deal with these issues.
Thank you, Lee. Joyce?
I'm going to respectfully disagree with Lee. Speaking as an attorney myself, Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel only steps in on the most egregious behavior. And the Supreme Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel is under the Supreme Court. It's only the most egregious behavior that is disciplined. And having read some of the disciplinary reports, there's a lot of bad behavior that is just allowed to happen. And judges do not very often step in with sanctions. Again, it has to be very egregious behavior before judges step in. There is a lot of bad behavior that is allowed to go on, and it does need to be regulated and disincentivized.
Thank you. Jesse?
Yeah, thanks, Joyce. I'd agree. We lawyers, I think we make that argument a lot. It's a little bit like the fox guarding the hen house a little bit. So I'd like to support this as well. So yeah, because I think it doesn't hurt to have some extra rules regulating our behavior as attorneys.
Thank you, sir. All right, Lee.
Okay, then I would like to add a suggestion that we disincentivize owners from asserting substantially frivolous or groundless claims and defenses with regard to collection and foreclosure matters.
Do you want it added to item? Do you want that added to item number 40?
No, it could be its own suggestion.
Okay, Melissa, did you get all that?
I think I got most of it, but if you wouldn't mind, please repeating it.
Sure. Disincentivize owners from asserting claims or any claims or defenses that are substantially frivolous or groundless in collection or foreclosure matters.
Thank you, Lee. Any other comments? All right, number 41. The formation of a work team of disparate interest key stakeholder groups who agree to work together to find common ground, review the process top to bottom, and produce win-win options. No comments? All right, 42. Mandatory mediation before foreclosure with each party to bear their own attorney's fees. Each party should have a person with full decision-making authority at the mediation. Both parties should in good faith communicate throughout foreclosure process in order to achieve resolution. Comments, Jesse?
Please add my name to that.
Thank you. Connie?
I would be glad to be added to that as well.
Thank you. Jose?
Add me as well.
Thank you. And Lee?
You could add me.
Thank you. All right, number 43. Expand HOA Information and Resource Center to have role in regulation and enforcement. Comments? Joyce?
I support that.
Thank you. All right, number 44. Education on the front end for everyone buying into an association. Education needs to be provided by the real estate industry, the association industry, and the title industry to improve the relationship of everyone involved in a common interest community, including the importance of communication. Lawless?
I can be added to that one.
Thank you. Joyce?
I support that one as well.
Thank you. Jesse?
I support it as well.
Thank you. And Jose?
Support it.
Thank you, Connie.
The education piece I really like, and respectfully offered, I don't think the real estate industry is capable of doing that. Having worked with a lot of realtors, their self-interest is making the sale. And I don't know that that interest can be subordinated to the education piece. So just the comment for purposes of the report.
Thank you. Lee?
And I appreciate that comment, Connie. But we have worked with the real estate industry and provided education in the past. And, I think they do want to provide, at least the higher ups on the real estate commission or their education group believe it can be done. It's just a matter of everybody working together to do it.
Thank you, Lee. Number 45, clear communication and education about homeowners' rights, responsibilities, and consequences would be beneficial to anyone prior to purchasing a home in an HOA. Connie?
I would ask Joyce to help me understand better the consequences part of that task force member suggestion.
I don't understand what you mean by the consequences.
Well,
Hey, Connie,
So
I
in-
think she was just saying the education about consequences. I think it's those three subjects: homeowner rights, responsibilities, and consequences. And I guess with that, and I don't mean to interrupt, but Joyce, is that any different than what we're talking about in 44? Because if it's not, maybe we can just, since you joined on to 44, maybe we just if we could keep 44 and take out 45, just so there's no confusion.
Yeah, I think it's basically it's the same as 44. The only the consequences issue, Connie, was in regards to knowing like when your home could be foreclosed upon, could be knowing that the fines and stuff that you have to pay, like what happens when you don't follow the HOA rules or you get a violation. What is the potential or what could happen as part of that? And I do think that is part of the education into buying into an association.
Got it. Thank you, Joyce. And I would add my name to 45, but not to 44.
Thank you, Connie. Jesse?
I'll add my name to 45, please.
Thank you. Lawless?
I don't actually, okay. The communication and education, the interesting thing is that all of this information is provided throughout the process, and nowhere are we making a suggestion that the homeowner or the potential homeowner be required to actually read all of the information they're being provided, because at every step in the real estate transaction, they're being provided that information. All of this information is also available in their warranty deed, in their loan documents. It's also provided in the governing documents for the association, which are out on the website. I mean, it's like, it's almost like we over communicate all of this information, but nobody has to read it. And I'd like to see a suggestion where there's some accountability by the owner and by the purchaser for what they're doing. Because they're spending their money. And that to me was the motivation for me when I bought my first house, is this is a lot of money. So I need to know where it's going, because I'm about to pay for it for the next 30 years or whatever. And so I was interested in knowing what my rights were at the time, but apparently not everyone is like that. But the information is still always available, and they still have it in their documentation. So I don't see us making any suggestions that hold the homeowner accountable to the association, which is also part of the contract when you purchase, meaning when you move into this neighborhood, you agree as a homeowner to do certain things and to know certain things and to review certain things. And we are a homeowners rights task force, and I feel like we should be holding the homeowners accountable as well, because we're shelling out the information. I mean, it's everywhere. It's out there. I could probably ask AI or somebody, when can I be foreclosed on in such and such association, and it could probably find it, right? But anyway, I just feel like there should be something in these suggestions that's also requiring something of the homeowner. I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you. Lee?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's what we've been saying, is that it's requiring a education to be provided and taken by a home buyer. Home buyers are deemed to know what's in the recorded documents or their purchase and sale agreement. They're deemed to know that information. And I think we've all been talking about education on the front end being education for the home buyer, being provided by somebody involved in the purchase, whether it be the title company or real estate broker, or being off, or that the homeowner does take that information, and that has to happen. That's being education being required. So, I mean, that's where I'm talking about. I would love other education for real estate agents, title companies, association, into people in, whether it's managers or boards, but to help eliminate confusion of what a homeowner is, what they're buying into. The education is to be required to the homeowners, first and foremost.
Thank you, Jose.
Sorry, Mickey. So on that, I would support. I think I already said I would be added to 45, so I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, Lee. Jose?
Yeah, so I would like to be added there as well. Definitely some interesting points that are being brought up. I was in the mortgage business for a long time, and just going through closings and everything else. I think it's important. One of the things that Lee mentioned was, title company information. It's like the title company is the one who's responsible for explaining a lot of these documents. I know real estate agents are as well, but the title company sometimes will just kind of gloss over, a 10-page deed of trust and so forth. So again, the more that we emphasize this education, this upfront training and stuff like that, if we're saying this, this has been brought up in 3 or 4, maybe in 5 different items here. It is that education piece. So I think it's important to let the title industry know as well that they can't gloss over this HOA disclosure. If it is a 1-page disclosure, there definitely needs to be brought up and discussed in detail, because it is important that homeowners do know what as we said here, what the consequences would be if they don't make their payments. But anyway, I support 45.
Thanks, Jose. Connie?
The point that Lawless made is an important one, and one that she's made throughout the entirety of the task force, and that is, she is almost, she seems to me to be almost incredulous at, come on, guys, this is already out there. It's already handled. And that's because you have the training and education and the experience and the professionalism that you have it nailed in a way, Lawless, that all of all property managers, all CAMs, all property management company owners don't have. And so what seems like the norm to you is because of your excellence. But we have associations that are completely self-run. We have associations where there are no credentialed CAMs. And so it's that bigger picture, I think, that's really important. So what I hope Melissa and Marcia will capture in the report is that there is every acknowledgement that there are terrific industry people doing what they need to be doing. And because there's zero regulation, the anomalies have come to a place where they need to be addressed.
Thank you, Connie. Lawless?
Okay, I'd like to make a suggestion. I think that I've been a real estate broker for 25 years. And the real estate industry is able to address the significance of HOA education in their commission update. Every year we have to take a 4-hour Colorado Real Estate Commission update. And I'd like to suggest that there be an allotted section in that update that goes over education requirements, or not requirements, but for the homeowners, and stresses that this is a responsibility of the brokers to ensure that their potential purchasers, et cetera, are familiar with it. That's one place. And then second, I've already said I stringently agree with the one-page disclosure that also can include, I've completed HOA requirement training or whatever it is, and that also be administered by the real estate community. Because that industry, or our industry, or my industry, whatever, does require this training every single year. And if a section of that is HOA training and creates that responsibility on the broker to make sure that their homeowners who are buying in HOAs are aware that they're buying in HOAs, et cetera, I think that mechanism, that we can use that. And I'd like to recommend that one of these recommendations be that there is an HOA specific section added to that commission real estate update every year for brokers, and that the disclosure that we're recommending be included in that, to ensure that not only the broker is getting the education, but the broker is making sure that the buyer gets the education as well.
Thank you, Lawless. And Melissa, I just want to make sure for the purposes of the report that you caught all that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And just add that as a recommendation. And if anybody is in agreement, if they would say so now, then we don't have to go over it again.
All right. Well, first Connie had her hand up, but Jose, are you in agreement? Is that why you put your hand up?
Yes, I'm in agreement.
Okay, Jose's in agreement. Joyce? Are you in agreement as well?
With the real estate, well, I'm confused as to why. I thought any comments we're adding into the information that's being provided, but we're not adding new items onto the list. Or are we now adding new items onto the list?
I'm adding a new item onto the list based on the conversation about this education piece.
Right,
Because
she's
this is
tweaking the
something-
education.
Because this
We're
is something
tweaking
we can
stuff.
actually do now.
So
without
I
legislation.
don't agree with us adding new items onto the list. I agree with us adding the information explaining items which are on the list, but not adding more items to vote upon.
Okay, and that's fine, but I am adding something to the list.
Okay, Connie had her hand up so patiently. Thank you, Connie.
Sure, I had my hand up because I would be happy to add my name to that addition to this list.
Lee?
Yeah, I do as well. I don't think it's a new suggestion anyways. It's been part of Lawless's discussions in the past and other meetings.
Thanks, Lee. And I think you guys will see, 48 might be, when we get to 48, that might be a better place to tweak the information about adding it to the annual commission update course. Again, just not add, it's a distinction with barely a difference. Not adding new items, just tweaking the information that's in here. Richard?
That's actually what I was going to say, Mickey, that it sounds like it's something that we've plowed over time after time. And I think it's also something that's really important because I think a lot of the issues that we're facing is just simply a lack of understanding, a lack of communication, and things tend to escalate into some sort of a confrontation between the parties. So I don't have an objection to doing that, but it may be better placed somewhere else.
Thank you, sir. And we'll revisit at 48. I think 48 might be the place for that. Richard, were you going to go? Another comment?
No, but it just, there it goes.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on 45 before we move on? All right, 46. Professional competence standards for property management company owners and community association managers, including institutionalizing baseline standards for credentialed property management owners and community association managers that would create accountability outside of a classroom setting. Joyce. You were on mute, dear.
I support that.
Thank you, ma'am. Jesse?
I'd support it as well.
Thank you. Flawless?
I support that. Is that just credentialing? I mean, is that just, minimum standards setting? It says outside of classroom setting. So I support that in that you're asking for standard baseline characteristics of managers and management company owners. Is that correct, Connie?
Yep, that's what I'm going for.
Okay, so I will support that.
Thank you. Jose?
I support that.
Thank you. All right, number 48, improve education and information on the front end for homeowners and real estate professionals, including requiring disclosures.
I think we skipped 47, right?
I did. I'm sorry, I didn't. I was focused on 48. Thank you, Joyce. Number 47, increase and improve the modalities of communication. Thank you, Joyce. Lee.
Yeah, and at the time I joined Jesse on this, and so you could add me to it.
Thank you. Joyce?
I support as well.
Thank you. Connie?
I also support.
Thank you. Jose?
Support.
Thank you. Joyce, I support you keeping me in line. Thank you. All right. Lawless.
I also support that.
Thank
Increasing.
you. Thank you. All right. 48. Improve education and information on the front end for homeowners and real estate professionals, including requiring disclosures. Connie?
It's with other things, and absolutely, I would be happy to support that one.
Thank you. Lee?
Yeah, same, me as well.
Thank you. Joyce?
I support that as well.
Thank you. And Jesse?
Jose supports that as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I was looking at him. Jose supports. Thank you. Lawless?
Yeah, I think it's included in there. Everything else we've said about communication and education, so I can support that.
Thank
Are
you.
those going to be combined? I guess not. So it's okay.
Thank you. Richard?
Yeah, I
Um,
support that.
Yeah, anyway, I'm just on this, hang on 1 second.
And Peter is here. Okay, great. Because we do have a couple questions to ask Peter. Awesome. 49, identify less expensive ways to provide notice. Connie?
I support that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments or support? All right, number 50. The method of communication should be determined by the individual, and that should be communicated to the board or management company. Joyce?
I support.
Thank you. Jesse?
I support as well.
Thank you, Jose.
I support that.
Thank you. And Lee?
Yeah, I'd support it.
Yes.
Thank you. Connie?
I also support.
Thank you. And Richard?
Yes.
Thank you. And number 51, education for associations, the title industry, the real estate. Lee, before I move on, were you jumping to 51 or did you have something to say on 50?
No, I was jumping to 51, saying
Okay.
that it's in there about 400 times. We could probably remove 51.
Okay. Anybody disagree with that statement? All right, 51 is Jesse, did you have a comment?
Oh, actually, I just wanted to object to it just for fun, to be the one person who objects to education, but I withdraw that objection. So
Great, the lawyer arguing with the lawyer.
Since
Okay,
Lee took it off the table, now I can't even object to the.
50% of all lawyers graduated in the bottom half of their class, so now I got to figure out which one. I've got some math to do here. Thanks for being the cantankerous one today, Jesse. We needed that at the very end. Okay, Marcia, if you would take that off share screen, bring everybody back. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm so afraid I'm going to get the blue screen of death on my computer. Did I see anybody else's hands up before I move on? Now I've got 3:05. Would it be okay if we just took a 10-minute restroom break? Or even 5? Would that be okay with everybody? Good. That's what I thought. We'd get some concessions. Let's come back. I've got 3:05 on mine. Let's come back at 3:10. And the first thing we will do is talk to Peter about the issues. You'll have to bring it back up again, Marcia, items 5 and 13.
I think Lala said 10. I would agree with 10.
Oh, 10 minutes is fine. I'm okay with that too. Thank you, ladies. All right, let's come back at 3:15. Oh my God, Lee, you should see the score of that CU game. All right,
I knew you were going to do
Lee,
that.
you knew I was going to say that. I don't have it on. All right, we'll see you guys at 3:15.
Hi, Mickey. How you doing? You're on mute.
Right, I was looking at unmute. Good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry. I had a conflict. I had a board meeting that I could not escape from. So it
No,
is.
it's okay.
It was what-
Marcia's gonna, so what we did is we went through the list of items. I don't know if you heard the beginning, Marcia and Melissa, God, I think they need therapy. They went and viewed all of our prior meetings to jot down copiously everyone's suggestions. They put it in a spreadsheet. We looked at all 51. We have 2 to ask you about that you were attached to, and we knew we were gonna do that when you got here.
I only had 2. I should have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Anyway, I
You're
had
going to
more than
51, aren't you, Peter?
I had more than 2, but I'd be
Not that you were attached to, just ones that we had questions for you about them.
okay, great.
The ones that you were attached to, they left you on.
Okay.
And Peter, if you want to email David or I, whoever's email address you have handy, after you get a chance to look at that list, what
I already
numbers you.
okay, I already emailed right after last meeting, my list. So you guys already have it.
Right, I was just saying if you, because in this meeting so far today, people went through and said, oh, I want my name added to number 44.
Oh, got it.
For
Got it.
example, if you wanted us to add your name to anything.
I don't
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay.
All right, it's 3:15. So our first issue that we need to tackle is that Marcia's going to bring the list back up, and we're going to look at items 5 and 13 because we had questions for Peter on those.
Okay.
Give me just a minute, Mickey.
I know your pain.
Thank you for the repeat. Sorry, everyone, that I couldn't make the first
It's fine.
3/4 of the meeting.
So Peter, I think the first one that we flagged to ask you about language was number 15, which is the need to create a section for covenant violations where people make a profit for covenant violation.
Yeah, so interesting because it's one of the things in this meeting I was just dealing with, and that is just, you want me to explain what that is for? What that means? So with, a couple examples, a lot has to do with, say, short-term rentals, that you may have people where you have a document that says, hey, you can't short-term rent your place. And then you've got people that have a covenant violation that are short-term renting. And right now, as we know, the maximum fine is $500 per occurrence, right? And then there's, the 30 days, then you get right to a cure and so forth. Get that. But the $500 is not enough of a deterrent when you're talking about short-term rentals. When you can rent a place and be making $500 a night per room, that when your hands are tied at $500 per occurrence, and again, per occurrence is that per month? Is that every day? So it could be a clarity in what per occurrence is or per violation. If I keep renting over and over and over, and I've rented for a month, is that one violation? Or is that 30 violations, one for each day? So we need to get a deterrent back in place because this is happening with short-term rentals. In one of my particular cases, I've got deed restricted units that are meant for workforce housing. So these units are fairly inexpensive to purchase. They're supposed to be rented out only long-term, and rented out so that workforce can afford to live in the unit. So if you've got people right now, the max again is $500. So they're saying, you know what? I don't care about the deed restriction. If all you can do is find me $500, per month or per whatever that time period is, then again, there's not enough deterrent. They're taking these places off long. It's not available for workforce housing anymore. So as everybody knows, we have problems with workforce housing to begin with. And now it's becoming even more problematic with our deterrent removed. So those are two examples. And that's a big one. That's really a big one.
So are you okay with the way 15 is, this suggestion number 15 is on the list? Are you okay with the way that's stated? Need to create a section for covenant violations where people make a profit for covenant violations. And then I see Lee and Joyce.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously very broad, and
Right.
if we can start getting to suggestions on how to write this, I would love to be involved with that. But yeah, it basically takes in what's needed for sure.
Okay, Lee and then Joyce.
And Peter, that's where I was gonna go. Would you be okay if we reworded it to say need to create a deterrent to prevent people from making a profit for covenant violations?
Yeah, that's even better. That's a great suggestion.
Okay.
And Melissa got that. Joyce?
Yes, with that reworking, I can't remember whether I supported this, but with that reworking, then I would support it.
Thank you. Connie? You're on mute, Connie.
Likewise, I support that with Lee's rewording.
Thank you. Richard?
I agree. I support that.
Great. Jesse?
I support it as well.
Thank you. And Jose?
I support it as well.
Thank you.
So Peter,
All
the
right.
other one that Connie had raised that you might want to have your name added to was number 5, was kind of the general cleanup of House Bill 22-1137.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
And then the next one is, the question was whether you wanted to be added to number 20, declare that fines cannot be counted as revenue.
And that was the discussion was in the budgeting process, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I think if that's added to in the budgeting process, fine should not be a line item.
And that was the verbiage they decided to change it to, not the word counted, but the word budgeted. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, then sure, you can certainly add my name.
Great.
I think those were the only ones where specifically we wanted to ask you if you wanted your name added. But like Melissa indicated, if you've got ones in particular that you've identified that you're in support of, you can email those to either Melissa or David. Were there other ones though that you wanted to voice any particular opinions about?
You know what? I don't want to. I mean, it would be reliving the meeting that you've had so far. So I'm gonna take the time. I haven't gone through this list. I'm gonna take the time. I'll go through the list, and then I'll just send any additional comments that way.
Okay.
I'm sure you all have done a great job in consolidating and cleaning things up with the group already. So.
Thank you, Peter.
Are you ready for me to share the legislation?
Please, Marcia.
So Dick Brown had asked that we discuss the legislation that had been presented at during this legislative session. And this is just a report that we pull out of kind of the tracking system. So you've got the different bills here. Starting off with House Bill 24-1078, the regulation of community association managers. And Mickey, if you want to take it from there, I'll turn it over to you.
24-1078. Can you just make it a little bit bigger, Marcia? Would you mind?
Let me see if I can figure that one out.
It should be at the very bottom of the screen. Yep, there it is. You were over at the magnifying glass at the plus sign. There you go. Just hitting it once. That should be good. Thank you. All right. So the bill establishes, and I'm not going to read the whole thing if it's okay if I just read the summary, because Marcia, I'm not sure how many of these bills will we be going through.
I'm not sure how many is in this document. I mean, 52 pages. So,
okay. Connie, did you want to say something?
Just a question. I wondered what exactly we're discussing. It's not an inclusive set. So whoever originated the request maybe could speak a little bit more to what they were looking for in the discussion.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Lawless, I'll let you. Lawless, please.
Yeah, I agree. We can all just read the legislation because none of it is on the calendar yet for anything, but it's pending and before the legislature. Maybe just the topics because it is a long document. It's long. It's talking about accessory dwellings. I mean, it's all the legislation that's association related that's been introduced, but none of it appears. It all says not on the calendar. Okay. So I think that means not ready for, okay, presentation, but it is a lot. So I feel like it's just something that we should know and can read on our own.
Okay, Dick?
I had asked for this just to have a context for what was going on down at the Capitol. If there are things that are moving forward and are getting ready to go to the governor that either conflict with or are redundant of the things that we have talked about and what we've prioritized, it would be useful just to be able to identify those with a checklist or something. I had no intention of trying to analyze these or going into any kind of we love this or we hate this, and the Western civilization will come to an end if we adopt this. I think there are also some things that we need to have Marcia and the Dora folks give us a little bit of guidance on what is the fiscal capacity of the division to take on some of these obligations, because it's real easy to say, gosh, Marcia, why don't you just add this to your rules and promulgate a bunch of forms and things like that. And at some point, somebody's got to say, time out, wait a minute, we may not be able to actually do this. And as Marcia's pointed out a couple of times, this may also be something that the governor might have an opinion about. And it would be pretty bad if we came with a big, strong recommendation and the governor vetoed the bill without any kind of foresight or any kind of discussion. I'm stunned at the amount of information that we've got here. 52 pages is a lot of information, and it probably covers an awful lot of things that we don't necessarily care about. Because I think somebody mentioned that there are some things about housing and land use and things like that that may not be within our scope of review, in which case they would fall off the edge of the table anyway. So I hope that kind of clarifies what I was thinking with respect to at least having some idea of what the environment is down at the Capitol, because whatever the legislature does is going to trump anything it is that we suggest, and it's probably something that we don't need to get involved in because you don't make any friends that way.
All right, thanks. Marcia, so I'm going to make a suggestion and then ask you a question. And then Lawless, I see that your hand is up. I see a few hands up. First, I want to suggest, Marcia, you just sending this document to everyone. Okay. And I'm just seeing some heads not in agreement, so Marcia or David will send it off. And then did you want to address what Dick brought up about the feasibility of the division being able to finance some of these different endeavors?
So the only bill that should be in this packet that has a fiscal impact that we've done a fiscal note on is the Community Association Manager licensure.
Okay.
And I believe it's to the tune of, I don't remember the specific total, but I think it's about close to $600,000 was the fiscal impact for us to administer the CAM program. The other bills, though, that have been going through, a lot of them just rely on the information office to get information out to homeowners and also association about the impacts of the different legislation. There is one bill that wanted to make us kind of a clearinghouse for information about foreclosures. And we have expressed some concerns that that might be better over as far as DOLA being the resource for that rather than us. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I think what people forget when they deal with HOAs, we have the HOA office, but the Division of Real Estate is a licensing and regulatory division. And that's primarily what we deal with. So the foreclosure education portion is something that is probably better dealt with over in DOLA.
I want to interrupt you. Your screen sharing. You may or may not be aware. I want to let you know.
I was skipping over to see if somebody was giving me some additional stuff about legislation, but really the only one that has the direct impact to us that we're concerned about is the Community Association Manager licensing. And I went into it at the last meeting. I mean, the concerns that we have is this has been an issue that's been around for about 12 years now. And from the departments and the division standpoint, it's probably ripe for another sunset review to evaluate what is necessary. When you actually look at the amount of actions that were taken, and we only had CAM licensing for about 2 years, the amount of disciplinary actions that were taken against the CAMs, it's hard to support a full-blown regulatory program when you look at those statistics compared to some of our other licensing programs. I also think that one of the things that was kind of challenging for the Community Association Manager licensing when we first had it was modeled after the Real Estate Broker Practice Act. And people coming into the community association management industry seem to enter it a little differently than real estate brokers do. Like if I tomorrow decided to go get my broker's license, I would go get my education, take my test, and then track down a brokerage that I want to work for. And they're usually independent contractors of those brokerages. Whereas with community association managers, they have a tendency to hire employees who then get acclimated to that industry. So having to bear that kind of front end burden of the education, the insurance, and that sort of stuff seemed to be challenging based on what we were hearing when we had the licensing program.
Thank you. Connie and then Peter.
Actually, I had my hand up and
oh, Lawless, I apologize. You did, and then everybody, and I put it down anticipating calling on you. Sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
So thank you for that information, Marcia. I appreciate that because that definitely puts a little more context on it. And the fiscal note to the state is different than the fiscal note to the associations and the management companies, because you're right, they hire managers, the manager goes through training, the manager gets the license, and then the manager decides, I'm going to go into firefighting, or I'm going to, you know what I mean? It's not cheap. Let me just put it that way. The increased insurance, the background checks, not that companies don't already do background checks, but it's another one. It's an additional. So there is a fiscal note for management companies, and certainly creates somewhat of a barrier to entry for anyone interested in becoming a community manager. And so poses additional consideration. The document that you sent here, I did notice that it does list when some of the committee presentations have already passed. They were on March 20th, and then there's a couple that are on March 26th. And again, it's sustainable, affordable housing assistance and some other things, but they're all association related. So it's worth taking a look at and seeing if there's something, I'm talking about the task force, if there's something of interest, of particular interest to you. But the manager licensing one has apparently not on the calendar yet. That's all.
Thank you. Connie?
Thanks, Mickey. I'm still not sure about the purpose of the discussion. What Marcia's comments brought to mind for me are a couple of things. And one is that Dora was put, in my personal opinion, in a terrible position of having to deal with the task forces, and this one in particular. And because a concern that I've had and why I wanted to see our names on the issues that we support is because Dora does answer to the governor. And our chair has said to us numerous times, this report will be vetted by the governor before it's official. And that's what I think happened to the first one as well. So I appreciate that we've gotten through the work. I especially appreciate the list of suggestions and the way that we were able to sort of civilly work through. Yeah, I want my name on that one. I don't want my name on the other one. I'm still not 100% clear about how that final report will read, but as long as this 51 item, well, plus, I think it grew a little bit, report is a piece of that, I feel comforted by it. And to Dick's point about the governor's veto, we know what his position is about the CAM bill. We know what position Dora has taken this year on the CAM bill. We know what position Dora took the first time around, which was completely different on the CAM bill. So in my mind, those are political waters that I don't feel like the task force needs to swim in. So some of these bills, and it's not inclusive. There's another, at least one other foreclosure bill that I didn't see in here. I'm glad to know what it is. I agree with Lawless that every single one of them, including the high density ones, they have to do with HOAs. And I don't see a way to connect the work that we've done to them. I know in multiple hearings, the discussion or the question, the issue would be raised about, well, what about the task force? What do they say about it? And the answer has been, hey, right now we're working off the original one that had 6 recommendations, and these bills are going to go ahead, and then we'll be happy to look at the task force's report. And so much emphasis has been put on the task force's report. Again, I feel much better that this list and our names will go on them. And I'm not inclined to dive into any of these other bills because I just mentally can't figure out how we can meaningfully connect them.
Thank you, Connie. Peter?
I love diving into all this stuff. It's all fun stuff. I really appreciate you sending, there's 12 bills here. I appreciate you sending the 12 bills, just because I think it helps the bigger picture. The more you understand the bigger picture, then you can refocus on what you're focusing on and understand that what you're talking about. Is it being dealt somewhere else in another sentence, so to speak, or is it not being dealt somewhere else? But I do have one question, and Marcia, I don't know whether you can answer, or anybody else can. The SB 2421, about exempting small communities from HOA requirements. It's way down. Does anybody know where that's coming from? And is that something new? Or is that something that's been talked about for a while?
Hey, Peter, could you repeat that?
So it's the one it's HB 2421 where exempts small communities from HOA requirements. And it talks about what's different amount of, depending upon when the association was formed, whether
Yeah.
it's 10 units or 20 units. I think there's some exemption now. Does it change that?
Yeah. My understanding is what it's really focused on are rural communities here. And I understand that was the sponsor's goal was really to focus on the smaller rural communities to make sure that they are part of that.
When you say part of that, you mean part
What I
of
mean-
the exemption?
Correct.
Okay, I mean, I think it's interesting that I would think if it's small, 3 to 5, but 20 isn't so small.
No, I agree. I think when they're dealing with rural communities, though, and I know you do, we all do, that they have different needs and different expenses for 20 units versus, Denver 20 unit communities, and I think that's what they're trying to avail through this bill.
Okay, I think this will be an interesting one to watch.
Yep.
All right, thanks, gentlemen. Lawless.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that it was just provided as informational. What's going on right now in the legislature relating to HOAs. So I don't think it was harmful to send it or not even, I don't mean to say harmful, that's not even the right word, but I think it's valuable to have. I just don't think that it's a discussion for the task force.
All right, great. Well, thank you. Then Marcia, if you would take that off screen share. Thank you, ma'am. So I'm going to tell you guys that I believe you did an awful lot of good work. Yes, we acknowledge we went circular a few times, but you did what the governor requested. You put those list of, I believe it's going to be 50 now because we removed one, but you put the list of suggestions together. Before we wrap up, Joyce, do you have a comment?
Yes, because I noticed that there was some suggestions that I had made earlier that were not a part of the list. I emailed those to Marcia because I want to make sure that they are included somewhere in the report. I'm not married to the idea that we had to have them on the list and vote on them. But since they weren't brought up, I do want to make sure that they are somewhere in the report.
And Melissa was taking copious notes, and I don't know if you noticed, but every once in a while I said, Melissa, did you catch that? Okay.
So the ones that you emailed separately, those are going into an appendix of the report, so they will be included.
Yeah.
Well, no, these were ones, because those were the ones that I sent to David, but the ones that I emailed you were ones that were brought up earlier, and some of them were included in the list, but the highlighted ones were not.
So I had sent the list that you sent to me over to Melissa. It's part of it. She put them together.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. No, keeping us on track. So again, before we depart, I'm going to let Marcia give the closing words. But like I said, I think you guys did a great job. You did exactly what the governor requested. Lawless?
So what are the next steps? So we are not going to get the opportunity to review the final report before it gets, if this is the last meeting, what are next steps then? Are we just waiting for the report to come out however it comes out? Or are we going to get the opportunity to review it and comment before it's finalized?
So I don't think you're going to get the opportunity to review it and comment about it before it's finalized, given the timing of it. So we are currently working on putting it in final format. We're going to have to add today's meeting to it as well. It will get finalized. The goal is to have it internally at the division level, proofread and finalized with us, and then sent off to the executive director's office by next Friday. And the executive director's office is going to review it, and they will do the final approval of that report as far as what is released. I don't think there's going to be any surprises for you guys, though, because it goes over everything that you discussed in your different meetings, along with an overview of the existing laws that come into play with the different topical areas that you had to discuss. And there is a lot of redundancy because the same topics came up over and over again. Education came up a lot. So you'll see that throughout the body of the report as we go through the different topics that you focused on. And it's not just the four topical areas in the legislation. It also goes over your broad discussion of HOA. It goes over the other laws that pertain to HOAs that you guys discussed. So it's not just kind of those 4 pointed topics. And I think at last glance, we were looking at about a 35-page report, and that was not with the appendices. So hopefully we'll give the legislature a lot to consider.
So will we get a copy of it at least?
We can definitely send a copy to you once we get approval.
Okay. And then how long will the share drive be available to us?
We can probably leave that open to you guys until once we release the report, because I think that will officially conclude your guys' work.
Okay, so but if the report gets finished and then it's disclosed and the share drive goes away, then we can't look at the report and possibly go back and look in the share drive. Like we can't. So I'm just thinking in terms of, I'm just, and forgive me because I do have a paralegal way of thinking of stuff. So it's more like, I'm thinking if I see the report and I want to see the minutia of where something came from, I would go back to the share drive and, want to see that. So if you close it out when you issue the report, then we won't be able to do that.
So what we can do after that,
well, I guess it wouldn't matter, would it? Because the report's issued.
I don't think with the way that the report is going to be done, that there's anything in the shared drive that you'll need to go back and specifically reference.
Okay.
What we are going to include is we are going in one of the appendixes is going to be one of the reports that we're pulling out of the engagement platform, so that is included. But really, I mean, the one concern that we have is the HOA documents that we got on your behalf. Like those can't just be distributed to the general public because there is some confidential information in those.
I'm with you.
That we need to worry about. But if there's something that is public information that you are curious about that is in the report that was part of your materials, you can reach out to us and we can look at providing that to you guys or providing that to you individually.
Okay.
Most of it is just a recap of your meetings.
Yeah, and I guess what I didn't do is download those.
We do have links to the meetings in the
meeting reports. I don't want to listen to it all over again, but because I was here. But the report, like it seemed after each meeting there was a report that was done of that meeting. So I guess I just wanted to have those.
So there weren't meeting minutes for each of your meetings, and unfortunately Zoom doesn't allow us to go back and do a transcript. That would have saved Melissa and me some time. Mm-hmm. So there aren't transcripts for your meetings.
There are not.
No, but if you're curious about something that was discussed at one of those meetings, you can still go back and access the meeting recording.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the meeting report. That's what I was talking about, just the meeting report. I know it's not the minutes, but just the meeting report.
The recording, there's no actual report.
Oh, recording. So it is
Yeah.
the YouTube. Oh, okay, yeah, no. I'm not willing to and God bless those who had to, but but I don't want to necessarily listen to the meeting again. I did listen to a couple of them again, just because I wanted to see how we appeared to interact with each other. But yeah, I'm fine with that. I just thought there was like some kind of like summary that was done on each of the meetings, but it's okay.
Well,
right.
it'll be in your
Forward to the
report
report.
itself.
Connie and then Peter.
Thank you, Mickey. I just had a question about how long Dora and Gage and the 29 pages of input will live online. Will it live online but no longer be available for additional input, or will it close down?
That's a good question, Connie. I don't know. I can follow up with you on that one though.
Thank you.
It's managed at the department level, so I can definitely look into how long that's going to be available.
I apologize. What exactly are you talking about, Connie? I don't know what you mean by are you talking about the report after it gets issued?
Not at all. I'm talking
Oh.
about the website, the Dora Engage. So the surveys are there and I don't know, 29 pages. I think the last time I looked of input from people, positive and negative, was there. And it's just really valuable. So I wondered how long people will have a chance to provide input to it. So as late as, a day or two ago, people have updated it. But if this meeting concludes our work for all practical purposes and that thing gets shut down, that would mean maybe tomorrow no one else can provide input. And even if they can't provide input into it, will it live for some period of time, just like the YouTube videos will last, I don't know, however long they're going to last.
Forever. Do YouTube videos, do they expire or delete?
I don't know. I don't know.
We're in infamy at this point.
Probably, yeah.
All right. Peter?
Yeah, I want to say that this group has been awesome. I didn't realize that this is going to be our last meeting. I've had a great experience. I've learned a lot personally, really from each of you, and I'm kind of sad that we're not going to be meeting. And to that end, when the task force is officially over, I'm assuming at some point it's okay that we contact each other and have more discussion. And to that, there are a lot of people on here I'd like to do that with. Can we at some point share a contact list?
Here's what I say in Zoom meetings, Marcia, if it's okay with you.
What a great idea.
If you want to be contacted by other task force members, please put your contact information in the chat at this time. Is that okay with everybody? That's how we usually do it in Zoom meetings. And then if somebody doesn't want to be contacted, they don't get put on the spot. So is that all right with everybody?
So
will that become a list? I mean, if it's just in the chat, I'm not going to go back to the chat.
You would copy and paste it now. Unless, Marcia, do you have another idea?
How about you let me know if you don't want your information disclosed, and then we can send out a list to everybody, and we'll send it out at the time of the report so we don't have to worry about an open meetings issue.
That'd be great.
Okay, that'd be great. And I want to be contacted if necessary. And so, but we're supposed to let you know if we don't want to be on that list, right? Okay.
Right.
Lee.
Yeah, I just want to thank Marcia and David and Melissa for their role and the work that they've done here. And Mickey, thank you very much. Marcia, will we get formal notification of the discharge of our duties?
So I can do that when we send out the report.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jesse.
Yeah, I want to say thank you. Obviously, I think to everybody on Marshall's team, but I think just everybody coming to show up, right? So we understand that engagement is difficult. We see that. I mean, we see what happens at our legislative bodies in the national government, really in the federal government, and things like that, and the loggerheads that ends up happening. So thanks everybody for coming to participate in many ways. And yeah, Marshall, I'll send you an email about that. I'll want my email shared with everybody except for Jose, basically. So yeah, yeah.
You got to get a manager and hit the road, go on tour in case this lawyer thing doesn't work out for you. Joyce.
Yes, I also just wanted to thank Marcia, Mickey, Melissa, David, and everybody who has participated on the task force. You know, I know we may have had disagreement or different viewpoints on different things, but I thought that we had some really productive discussions, and also I felt like I really learned a lot. So thank you.
Now I learned a lot too. Thanks, Joyce. Lawless.
I just want to piggyback on everyone's comments. This has been a great experience, and thank you to Dora for facilitating all of it. I actually met people on the task force that I'd only known via a list on a website or something of that nature. Does that make sense? So like I said, I've been a realtor for quite a long time, and so to actually meet Marcia or interact with Marcia or even Nick Altman and Dave Donnelly is great. I think this was really productive. I appreciate the opportunity to serve and to provide any insights that I was able to provide from my industry, and it really has been a good experience, even though, you're not going to agree on everything, and it is what it is, but it's nice to see that you can communicate that and agree to disagree or whatnot in a civil way. Because unfortunately, society seems to be taking a turn in that regard. So I look forward to seeing all of you in the future in the industry in this work, right? Because it is good work. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, Lawless. Anyone else? And my thanks as well to the folks from the division. Melissa, David, Eric, Marcia. Want to make sure I didn't, Nick, just want to make sure I didn't forget anybody. You guys, you did an awesome job. Thank you. All right, then, 4 minutes to spare. And this CU game, Lee, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, Lee, I don't even have it on. You guys, thank you.
Me neither.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Mickey.
Thank you guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.